welcome to another Zach Carnage video, and today we're going to be talking about deck degeneration. Now, over the years, we've seen all sorts of incredible cards being released for the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game, with great archetypes, and players have always been expanding upon the original cards that were released, putting in their own tech cards, putting a new spin on it, and sharing their ideas with the world. But have they gone too far? Today, we're going to be discussing some of the terrible calamities that have happened to decks, but some of the other cooler decks which have actually worked their way in and made decks significantly better. More complicated combos aren't always better. Everyone knows that when a deck first comes out, there's an enormous amount of hype about how great it can be, especially if it's actually a good deck. Nice. So there's an enormous amount of pressure for players to pick up the newer decks, especially seeing as the old decks always get hit by the ban list, and if you want to stay competitive, you've got to pick up the new cards. So really we want to talk about what makes a deck really good and why it's come to a point in the game in which decks are just getting worse. People build different versions of the deck and then they get spread around, and gradually over time people just play worse and worse decks. An excellent example of this is Shadow's. When originally mentioned, there was an enormous surge of just attention towards the cards, specifically because they had great monsters with like 2 effects for a monster was a pretty big thing. A graveyard effect and a flip effect was pretty impressive because you could get them both off with the same monster. And then they showed us Winder. And Winder was just fantastic. There was so much destruction going on at the time. Everything had to summon twice, and nothing could get past a 2-2 monster without destruction, because there was basically no removal for it. It was deep prison or you're kind of screwed. So then we've obviously seen a lot of different cards brought in since then. We've had all of the new Shadow cards, we've had the Construct, we've had the El Shadow Fusion. The deck has expanded massively. But to keep the deck very consistent and to make it good, there have been all sorts of different tech options. There are lots of different versions of Shadow actually being brought about. I mean, there was Artifact dolls, there have been Lightsworn dolls, and more recently we've seen Star Seraph dolls. But it's got to with Star Seraph dolls, I really do believe that it's got to the point at which the deck is just getting worse. It's less consistent and it's not good for the game. You don't want to be playing an inconsistent deck. Take, for example, Carblake's Infernoids at UK Nats that went 9-0. That was very, very impressive. But it didn't get him to number 1 in the UK. So being first after Swiss doesn't necessarily make you number 1. You need a deck that is more consistent. Infernoids have that issue where they're not currently consistent enough. But anyway, let's get back to Shadows. So when they were first brought out, you needed cards to make the engine work a bit. So people started playing Armageddon Knight first, just because it allowed you to activate any of your graveyard effects. Plus it allowed you to build on a rank 4 engine with the Chaos Dragons. So we saw a lot of that happening, which is really good. Like, it's good to have a consistent tech card that actually aids the deck. Obviously, Armageddon Knight got removed, displaced for Mathematician, because Mathematician wins in just beating over it by 100. Plus, you've got the fact that it can send any level 4, so if you were playing Eclipse Wyvern to go into Dark Arm, that was mainly an OCG thing, but we saw a bit of it here in TCG as well. And you can send Felice to make a Black Rose Dragon. So it worked very well. It was a very good system. They were great. But the other engines, the Artifacts, the Chaos Dragons, the Star Seraphs, we've all seen them come and sort of go. It's mainly because they don't actually aid the deck significantly in a way that is consistent enough. If you look at the Chaos Dragon engine, for it to work properly, you need to be playing at least 2 and 2 to have the engine itself working, because you want to be able to get as many searches as possible for your different dragon of your dark, your light, the different one that you want to search for. But the deck had to drop almost all of the Collapse Opens and stick with just Wyver Burster, because Collapse Open was inconsistent in your hand and that you would never have enough lights in the grave to actually summon it. So that engine sort of worked for a while, but then it became a bit redundant, and you couldn't actually play, you couldn't maximize the usefulness of it. So that dropped out. We saw Denko Saka come in because we had a lot of Helmet, a lot of trap-heavy decks, and Shadol needed an out of that, because Shadol seriously suffers to some basic trap. But then Denko's went out again because we stopped seeing so many trap-heavy decks with Necros, because Necros had no space for traps. They just needed to run their engine and get it as fast and consistent as possible. So we saw a lot of Denko coming in, coming out again. And then we got Star Seraphs. And Star Seraphs was the point where I think the deck sort of lost it. So you put in a 6-card minimum engine, and you know that you can draw the combo. Like, you can draw the combo and it can be amazing. It can be a +5 if you play it right, which is fantastic in any deck. A +5 is amazing. But it's so inconsistent. It's just not a great engine. The ability to search for the sovereignty with Scepter is nice in itself, because you keep your light targets in your hand for your El Shaddai fusions, making the constructs all day. But it's not a consistent opener, especially if you draw multiple sovereignties. If you don't draw the combo, it's just not good. But what happened was, so many people jumped on the Star Seraph bandwagon because of its popularity in OCG, that it just became a huge thing. There were two main reasons why Star Seraphs became huge. One was Shockmaster in OCG, and two was the number of people who played it. So many people played it that there was bound to be someone at a tournament who opens up at the start of every match with the combo. Those two things were really the key to making Star Seraphs out there, like, it's popularly played, winning tournaments everywhere. Don't get me wrong, I love the Seraph engine, I love it when it works, but I hate dead drawing it. And yeah, it's an awful experience, especially when you go out there and you're playing a deck and you're thinking, hey, this is like the best deck at the moment, it's winning everywhere. And you play it and you open inconsistent hands every time, it's just not good. But anyway, that was the problem with dolls. They got to a point at which they were just investing too much in tech cards, and it pulled away from the main idea at the core of the deck. So what we saw in the European Nationals, European Championship, was that the original doll build won. Absolutely fantastic. I mean, it had the Veilers in as tech cards versus Trish, but 2-card engine, plus that helps your BLS, and it's light. There's really no issue with Veiler. Veiler as a hand trap is solid enough on its own that you can play it. It's not an engine in of itself, so I have no issues with people playing that. But if you saw the winning deck profile, you'll know it did not feature Star Seraphs, it did not feature artifacts, nothing clunky. It was Mathematicians, Dolls, Veilers, BLS, just basic stuff. Just really, really quite interesting to see. But Dolls, like, Shadows themselves are a very consistent deck. They should be winning all over the place. Of course, there have been a lot of changes in ban lists, which have resulted in this. We went through the Clifford stage where Clifford was everywhere with the triple skill drain, the triple vanities, emptiness. What did you do against it? We had the Ginlock, but that's gone now, thankfully. The problem with, like, I feel like Shadal had an out to anyway. You could play the Para if you really wanted to, but now you don't even have to play that. So, and I feel like Para is a solid tech card, but it's one card. You're not investing in a 6-card engine, which is inconsistent in of itself. So yeah, that's just my personal opinion on Seraph Dolls. I feel like Shadal got to the point at which they were investing too much in the wrong engine, and it was pulling away from the main part of the deck. This has happened in other decks. I'm mainly talking meta now, but we've also seen it happen a little bit in BA. When Burning Abyss first came out, there weren't enough cards for it to be a solid deck on its own, so they played things like Rank Up Magic and Monarchs. Now, we've seen both of these drop out because they are not consistent enough tech cards to play. You dead draw the Monarchs if you play multiples. You can dead draw the rank ups if you don't manage to set up your cards and you've just got traps. So the best builds of BA didn't have either of those. They just had loads of traps. But of course we saw a lot of rank up and Monarch versions doing very well. But that was mainly because there were a lot of people. It's the numbers that really pushed the deck forwards. Then we got more names, and we saw the deck move away from the traps and more towards the OTK sort of variant of BA, where you had the double tour guys giving you immense advantage. You could turn one, just smash your opponent out of the ballpark. It was quite incredible, and enormous fun to play, I have to say. It's fantastic. If you haven't played it, please just try out BA Online. It's an amazing deck. Although I personally really prefer the current build, which is all traps. So we'll talk about that in a bit. So obviously it went to the OTK build with more names, so you can send more stuff to the grave. You had the spells, which allow you to send more stuff as well. It was an excellent system. But then Tour Guide got hit, so the deck had to revert back, like had to leave that a bit. I feel like the only issue with that version was you couldn't deal with traps yourself. So if you went up against the trap version of BA, you probably lose to traps because you don't build advantage as much as they can take it away from you. So yeah, we saw BA go into the OTK variant and Tour Guide dropped, so they went back to traps. But to be honest, it was always better as a trap deck because it was just more consistent. But yeah, that's what happened with BA. We've seen even worse things. Like since Mistake became a serious card because you had to play it against Necrons, we've seen that mained in Shadol, which is okay, it doesn't interrupt your engine too much. Obviously it stops your hedgehogs, which depends how many hedgehogs you play really as to whether you want to do that or not. We also saw Mistake in Clifford's. Now I personally think this is ridiculous. The best part of a Clifford deck is that it can search. And I've been playing Cliffords for quite a while, and I gotta tell you, I love the deck. And the best thing about it is its ability to search for anything you want. And why would you play Mistake in that deck? It's so counterproductive. It just doesn't make sense. You have to play it to beat the meta, but if you're beating the meta, you're beating yourself. Please don't play Mistake in Cliffords, okay? It's not worth it. You can play Mind Crushes. That's, in my honest opinion, Mind Crush is not as good as Mistake. Mistake, Floodgate wins. Mind Crush just sort of wrecks hands, but that's about it. Yeah, but we've seen mistakes in Cliffords, and that's really bringing the level of deck right down. More recently, we've had Wavering Eyes, which means Towers Turbo. I love the idea of Towers Turbo, and I love that it's doing so well. I just feel like it shouldn't. Obviously, it's a great system that you take turn 1, you build a towers, and your opponent has to use, 6 cards to get rid of it, if they can. If they can get rid of it. Plus, at that point, you've drawn loads of cards for your monolith, and you've got monsters in your extra deck. You're pretty much... It builds a huge advantage for setting up a near unbeatable field. Near unbeatable. Whatever. But yeah, so we've been through Shadol, BA, and Cliffords, ways that people have put in tech cards which are just bad. People should not be playing these terrible tech cards. Who knows what we are going to see for Necrons now that they've had like a couple of hits. And the way that techs take off I find quite interesting because the main way that it happens is someone puts in a tech card or a few. You can put in quite a few tech cards if you want to. You know, depends how much space you have in your deck. Necros can probably do it now. But you put those in and you use them, and if you get very lucky, you'll see the tech cards in all of the right situations. So say with Star Seraph Dolls, we're going to keep doing this all the time. If you put in the Star Seraph engine and you see both of your Star Seraphs at the start, your set, you're going to be really happy with it. If it takes you through and you win, it's mainly either through luck or it's through actually being a good tech, which can actually happen, or it's because it's a surprise tech. Surprise tech and luck tend to be the two main reasons for putting in tech cards that do well that you've done yourself. Otherwise, it's probably really popular already. But if you do that and you do well, and nobody's done this before, you win a tournament, you put your deck profile online. Someone's going to take your deck profile because people will want to know what you were playing. So people will see that. More people will start playing that tech. Then eventually you get to the point at which so many people are playing this tech that they will then win another tournament with it. So they share it around, and it's a bit like a snowball rolling down a hill which is covered in snow already. The more people who see your video, the more people who play it, the more people who win tournaments, the more videos that are made, so the more people who see the tech card, the more people who play it, and it just goes on and on and on, until it gets to the point at which someone actually realizes that the tech isn't that good, and you can put in something else which is probably better. That does happen with a lot of tech cards, and that is a large part of what builds up deck degeneration. It's that people see something and they think it can be good. Like, there are enough numbers of people playing the cards that They get lucky, they win something, they share it around. Like, if you see a tech card which actually helps your deck, please try it out. But don't assume that it's going to give you auto wins. But just, feel free to try stuff out, but don't always assume that the latest deck is the best one. We've seen Shadow's, the earlier deck, was better. Who knows, maybe Denkudol's really is better than the original because the original runs more traps. It's up to you and your playstyle. But I personally think that Starter of Dolls are bad. Mistake in Cliff Wars is bad. OTK-BA is bad. Not because they're bad decks in themselves, but because they're just worse than the other available options. Anyway, thanks for watching this video. If you've got any comments or suggestions that you would like to make, please leave them in the comment section down below. I would really love to hear your opinions on anything I've talked about today, especially if you've got other suggestions for other ways in which decks have degenerated over time. I'd really love to hear your opinions on them. Or if you think I'm completely wrong and you just want to argue it out in the comment section, I love a good discussion, especially one that actually informs me of new information, because learning is fantastic. You should all be learning some great stuff. Anyway, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I put up lots of crazy videos. You can also like the Facebook page. If you've already seen it, you knew this video was coming up in advance. You also know what's coming up soon. If you take a look at the link in the description, it'll take you to the Facebook page. Please give it a thumbs up. Let me know what you think. And as always, I will see you guys in the next video. Check out what else I did.